If you want to participate in the incentivized testnet from QUAI Network and deploy your contract, your NFT contract, your token contract, and stuff like that, you're welcome to come join, and this video will guide you through the deployment process so that you are good to go on both multi-chain and simple one-chain contract deployment. So there are, as I already said, simple and just one-chain deployment, which is just Solidity, so you can use all familiar Solidity tools like Truffle, Remix, and Hardhat. However, if you'd like to deploy on all chains and ensure that the contract, the sister contracts, so to say, communicate properly, you have to make sure that you are using SolidityX. So SolidityX is just Solidity with two new opcodes that are suitable for communications between different chains. Deploying multi-chain has a perk that anybody, whatever chain they're on, whatever zone they're on, they are going to be able to seamlessly interact with your smart contract. So I'm going to show both the simple and the multi-chain, as I already said, and let's get into it finally. There are tutorials available in the QUAI Network docs. So if you go ahead in there under develop, you see tutorials, and under tutorials there is a simple smart contract and a multi-chain smart contract. So you can just follow this and you can easily deploy whatever, because there is kind of a template on how it's done. However, I'm also going to show you the Dominant Strategies GitHub that you would like to check out. Dominant Strategies is a company that builds QUAI Network. So in here, we have a very nice Hardhat example. If you'd like to deploy multi-chain, the main kind of downside for that, because it's not 100% Solidity, it's Solidity plus a little bit. So you cannot use all the Solidity tools, and you have to use Hardhat for deploying your multi-chain smart contracts. However, that's not hard. We are going to install all the Hardhat dependencies on the Hardhat itself in this video. So you should be good to go with this video. Now we opened it side by side, and I would also recommend you to open either the docs or the GitHub repository with the directions that you would like to copy so that you don't miss any steps, because that is crucial. And first thing first, we need to clone the repository, and that is done with a git clone command. If you don't have a Git and you're a developer, I'll be very surprised. However, if you just need to install Git, you use a brew install git command and you are done. So we first clone the repository, and will take just a tiny bit of time, very quickly, and then we will need to make sure that we are inside the directory that we just created. So with the command cd hardhat example, we go into that directory, and then we install the necessary dependencies with the npm I command. Once you install, that's all good, and we are gonna go ahead and set up our environment file. With that, we first need to copy the template for the environment file with this command, with the cp.env-dist, and this is not gonna output anything because it's just copied the info from the example file into your environment file. And from this point on, it is gonna be much more kind of convenient to use VS Code instead of your terminal, and that's what I am going to use. And in here, you see everything is nicely set up. We have the contracts, so those are the example contracts. The greeter is just like a welcome, very simple program. QRC-20 is like an ERC-20, so it's just a token, and QRC-721 is like an NFT, so it's a non-fungible token, and QRC-20 is a fungible token. Environment dist is just the example environment file. Environment is where we are going to configure our things. So make sure that your gitignore file contains your environment, because you don't want to spoil your kind of private keys to everybody if you are going to upload that to GitHub. Then Hardhat config is everything here nicely set up already for us. Now we're going to go ahead and set up our environment file. In the environment file, we have the private key for each deployment address. And as you can see, they are all different. They should be all different. So how to do that? You go into your browser and you see your Pelagus wallet. And in here, we go into the name of the chain, of the address, and there are 3 dots next to the address. So you see there is Cypress1 and the 3 dots. I copy and export private key. I export private key is gonna appear right here at the bottom. You copy your private key and you insert it into the field of Cypress1 as well. So you have to make sure that you copy the private key of Cypress1 wallet into the Cypress1 field in here. Let's say I also would like to deploy on Paxos 2. I will copy the Paxos 2 private key, and I will put the private key for Paxos 2 in this field. Then what else we need? We need the ChainID. ChainID is just depending on where you'd like to deploy. Since we are deploying on testnet, that is a Coliseum testnet and network, and we're gonna go put 9000 because that's the testnet ChainID and RPC endpoints. RPC endpoints are just the nodes that are going to against which you're going to deploy your smart contract, and they can be either your own node or they can also be the public RPC endpoints from QUAI network. And yes, so you don't have to run your own node. If you'd like to deploy, you can just use the public RPCs. And for that, we can go to the QUAI network docs, and we go to the under develop, there is networks. Under networks, we go into testnet and important links and specs for the testnet. And in here, you see the RPC endpoint link structure. So you can copy this. You just have to change the name and make sure you type it all correctly so it works. Once you set up your environment file with the proper private keys for every zone and proper RPCs, we can go ahead and deploy. There are two deployment scripts. One of them is going to be called either deploy or deploy greater. And if it's called deploy greater, you should rename it to just deploy and deploy all chains. Deploy all chains, all it does is that it executes the deploy script on every chain, and every chain is specified in the chains here. So let's first deploy a simple smart contract, and we put the deployment script that we would like to deploy. So here it says greater. However, we can also say we would like to deploy QRC-20 or QRC-721. And yes, we will go and have a look at those QRC-20 and QRC-721, but for now, let's just deploy greater. And then we use this command that we just copied from the GitHub example. If we would like to specify the network, by default is going to deploy on Cypress 1. And if you'd like to deploy on any other one, you can just specify it like this. And when I run it, it's not going to work properly because, again, I didn't specify the private keys. If we now would like to deploy on different chains, on all the chains and go multi-chain, we go ahead and deploy all chains. And with that, we just run the same. Greater is all cool and nice, of course, but what's more interesting is QRC-20 and QRC-721. And QRC-20, as I already said, is a fungible token, so just a normal token, and we can create whatever chain we would like. So we just give it a name first, and then we give it a symbol. So that's the 3-letter thingy. And we also specify the maximum supply, and we just say, let's say 42. I would like 42 tokens. That's a little bit insane, but it's just an example. So everything is specified here for us, so it will be very easy to deploy. And then if we would like to go and have a look on 721, you can also specify the name and the symbol for it. So let's say it's going to be an NFT again for us. We're going to call it DFT. And I'm not a developer myself, and I'm only going to use the templates here. However, if you have your own contract for ERC-721 or QRC or ERC-20, you can of course use this template as kind of a skeleton, as an example, and insert your own values here. I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to just show you how to deploy, and you can fill in the details for the contract themselves yourself. So then we need to change the script. So if we would like to run the deploy for another one, so for QRC-20 or for QRC-721, we need to change that in the deploy. It says greater, we say QRC-20 or we say QRC-721, and then we run the same deploy script, and that's the only thing you need to change to deploy a different contract. So all your contracts are in the contracts, all your deployment scripts are here, and deploy all chains is going to, again, just run the deploy script on every chain, so you don't need to change anything there. And before we go, I'll show you just one cool command that you can run if you are not yet ready to deploy, but you would like to see if there are any errors if you were to deploy at the moment. So So that is just called npx Hardhat test. And with that, it will show you any kind of error that will pop up if you try to deploy a contract. And it's going to pop up that I also don't have the private key again, and private key is invalid, but without even trying to deploy the contract, which is, I think, useful. You, of course, don't have to use the Hardhat example from GitHub. You can go ahead and use the docs. They contain all the necessary files that you'll need to copy into your directory. So all the dependencies are going to be installed here, and you will only need to compile manually and then deploy manually as well. I mean, without a script, not just manually. Obviously, you do everything with your hands. But yeah, again, you'll have to deploy on every chain with your own hands without just simply running the script. And that may be a little bit longer than you would do with a script. And that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and it was helpful. And if you still have any questions, of course, hop on our Discord and we'll be glad to assist you with anything. And see you in the next one.